William Williams, born in 1877, was an immigrant from Cornwall, working as a miner in St. Paul, Minnesota. In June of 1903, while hospitalized for diphtheria, Williams befriended local teenager John Keller, who was also recovering from the disease. Over the next 2 years, they lived together in St. Paul and took trips to Winnipeg, Canada. However, Keller's father disapproved of their relationship and forbade his son from traveling with Williams, leading Keller to return to his parents' home in St. Paul. In 1905, Williams sent Keller numerous letters expressing his love and urging Keller to join him in Winnipeg. The letters also contained threats if Keller did not comply. Williams wrote, "I want you to believe that I love you now as much as I ever did. It won't be long before we will be together. Keep your promise to me this time, old boy, as it is your last chance. You understand what I mean, and should have sense enough to keep your promise." Under the direction of Mr. and Mrs. Keller, these letters went unanswered. In April of 1905, Williams returned to St. Paul and, in a fit of rage, shot Keller and Keller's mother in their home. Keller was killed instantly by a shot to the back of the head while he was in bed. His mother succumbed to her gunshot wound a week later. Keller's father was not home at the time of the shooting. Williams was arrested and tried for premeditated murder, though he pleaded not guilty by reason of emotional insanity. A police officer testified in court that Williams came to the station on the night of the murder, admitting that he had shot someone and providing the address as 1 Reed Court. A doctor who examined Williams testified that Williams did not know why he shot Johnny Keller, only that he wanted the boy to come with him. When Williams took the stand, he told the court that he hadn't slept for 3 nights before the murder and had been drinking heavily on the day of the shooting. Despite his defense, Williams was convicted of murder on May 19, 1905. Ramsey County Attorney Thomas Kane excluded jurors who were opposed to the death penalty, leading to Williams being sentenced to death by hanging. On December 8, 1905, the Minnesota Supreme Court affirmed his conviction and sentence, although one judge disagreed, arguing Williams' crime showed signs of a crime of passion and might not have been premeditated. On February 13, 1906, Williams was executed in the basement of the Ramsey County Jail in St. Paul. There were 32 witnesses present, including Daily News reporter Joseph Hennessy, who managed to enter the jail with the crowd despite a ban on reporters. Before his execution, Williams spoke from the gallows, insisting on his innocence. "Gentlemen, you are witnessing an illegal hanging. I am accused of killing Johnny Keller. He was the best friend I ever had, and I hope to meet him in the other world. I never had improper relations with him. I am resigned to my fate. Goodbye." The rope used to hang Williams was too long, due to a miscalculation by Sheriff Meeson. As a result, when Williams dropped through the trapdoor, he hit the floor. 3 of Meeson's deputies had to hold Williams's body up by the rope for over 14 minutes until he died of strangulation. Williams' attorney, James Cormican, condemned the execution as a disgrace to civilization. The botched execution of Williams was cited by advocates in Minnesota as a reason to abolish capital punishment in the state. In 1911, Minnesota abolished capital punishment, and it has never been reinstated, making William Williams the last person executed by the state. On November 27, 1925, Francis Snow had a heated argument with his wife, Maggie Snow, after she accidentally let livestock loose in their cotton patch. Enraged, Snow bludgeoned her to death with a wooden club. He then murdered his mother-in-law, Samantha Olds, with an axe. 74-year-old Olds, who was blind and deaf, was unaware of the impending danger. After hiding the bodies, Snow rode his horse and buggy to find his stepson, 19-year-old Bernard Connolly. Connolly had taken a load of wood to a more urban area of Stephenville earlier that day and had not yet returned home. When Snow located him, he lied, saying Maggie was sick and wanted Connolly to return home. Upon their arrival at the farm, Snow shot Connolly twice in the back with a Winchester rifle, killing him. Following the murders, Snow dismembered the bodies of Maggie Snow and Samantha Olds with an axe and burned the remains in his fireplace. He stripped Bernard Connolly's body down to his underwear, then took it to Cedar Point, where he decapitated the body with an axe. Later that evening, Snow placed Connolly's severed head in a sack and left it in the cellar of an abandoned farmhouse in Erath County. On December 9, 1925, Jesse Elvis Riggs, a young fur trapper, stumbled upon the head of Bernard Connolly. Accompanied by his acquaintance, Ben Aycock, and their dog, Butch, Riggs ventured to his grandfather's farm to set traps. While Aycock placed traps outside an abandoned house on the farm, Riggs ventured inside to set traps. Upon reaching the basement, he discovered a bloody sack containing the severed head. Riggs promptly informed Aycock, who inspected the sack himself, confirming the gruesome find. The pair swiftly departed in their car to notify the authorities of their discovery. Upon arriving at the cellar, investigators swiftly concluded that the farmhouse was not the scene of the murder due to the absence of blood. Moreover, they determined that decapitation was not the cause of death. Speculation arose regarding the possibility of death resulting from a knife wound beneath the chin or from blunt force trauma. Recognizing the perpetrator's familiarity with the area, authorities noted the presence of 3 other abandoned homes nearby, yet the one chosen to conceal the head was the sole structure with a basement. Unable to identify the head, investigators opted to display it at a local morgue in hopes of recognition, drawing thousands of curious onlookers who dubbed it the Pretty Boy, until Ida Grisley finally identified it as Bernard Connolly. Following this identification, Francis Marion Snow was questioned at his residence by Sheriff David Medicus Hassler. Snow initially claimed that his wife, mother-in-law, and stepson had departed for Waco, Texas on November 27th. However, inconsistencies in Snow's account led Sheriff Hassler and Texas Ranger Stuart Stanley to consider him a suspect, prompting his arrest for further interrogation. Concerned for Snow's safety amid local unrest, authorities detained him in the Tarrant County Jail in Fort Worth. With a search warrant secured for Snow's farm, investigators discovered incriminating evidence, including traces of dry blood and the murder weapon used on Bernard Connolly. The fireplace yielded the ashes and bone fragments of Snow's wife and mother-in-law, alongside an axe stained with dried blood. On December 11, 1925, Francis Snow confessed to the murder of Bernard Connolly. Accompanied by law enforcement officials and District Attorney Samuel Morris Russell, Snow led them to the location where the remainder of his stepson's remains lay, 16 miles from where the head was discovered. Standing over the body, Snow confessed to the additional murders of his wife and mother-in-law. The trial of Francis Snow, known as the State of Texas versus F.M. Snow, commenced on January 18, 1926. Despite the defense's attempt to plead insanity, the plea was swiftly dismissed. The prosecution presented Snow's signed confession, witnessed by multiple individuals, as the most compelling evidence against him. Following brief deliberation on December 27, 1926, the jury returned with a guilty verdict. Snow received a death sentence, prompting an unsuccessful appeal before he was transferred to the Huntsville unit in Huntsville, Texas. During his incarceration, Francis Marion Snow confessed to several additional murders, including that of Jean Graves, a fellow inmate who had provoked him. He also admitted to killing a man in Palo Pinto County and another in San Saba County. Snow was also suspected of a decapitation murder in Mineral Wells in 1912, though he declined to provide further details on that case. On August 12, 1927, Francis Marion Snow met his fate in Huntsville, Texas, where he was executed via the electric chair. As he was strapped in, his final words reverberated, "There's never been a better man sat in this thing." His resting place is at Captain Joe Bird Cemetery. William Johansson was born in Denmark in 1915 and relocated to Beverly, Massachusetts at a young age. After completing 8th grade, he briefly enlisted in the Army. Upon reaching adulthood, he moved to New York City, where he held various positions at theaters and restaurants. He was convicted of embezzlement from a restaurant and received 3 years probation. During a stint working in a hospital morgue, he began to experience urges to harm people, particularly when intoxicated. During a stint working in a hospital morgue, he began to experience urges to harm people, particularly when intoxicated. These urges led him to sleep with corpses. Johansson later married a woman named Florence, with whom he had 2 children. However, the marriage deteriorated, leading to their separation. In the early hours of October 20th, 1933, following an argument with Florence, Johansson fatally strangled her. He then placed her body on a bed and used a boning knife to open her abdomen, allegedly to verify her pregnancy, which she had previously asserted. Authorities initially believed her death to be a result of suicide, resembling the ritualistic act of seppuku. As a result, the case was closed as such. Johansson adopted the alias Harry W. Gordon and departed New York to pursue work as a sea merchant. After 18 months, he arrived in San Francisco. On the evening of April 6, 1935, Johansson encountered Lena Betty Coffin, a 35-year-old prostitute, on Market Street and solicited her services. They proceeded to a nearby motel where Johansson secured a room under the guise of Mr. and Mrs. H. Myers, claiming to be a sailor. Approximately an hour later, he assaulted Coffin, initially strangling her until she lost consciousness. Subsequently, he silenced her with tape to prevent her screams and proceeded to fatally stab her. After meticulously removing fingerprints and any other incriminating evidence from the room, Johansson resumed his regular duties. He soon departed for Portland, spending a considerable time in the Gulf of Mexico and Texas. However, he eventually returned to California, where he married Lydia Gordon, the proprietor of a flower shop in Long Beach. On June 24, 1940, Johansson encountered Irene McCarthy at a beer hall on 5th Street. After drinking together and becoming intoxicated, they retired to a nearby hotel, registered under the name Mr. and Mrs. J. Wilkins of Los Angeles. Upon entering the room, Johansson attempted to awaken McCarthy, to no avail. Frustrated, he strangled her to death with her own girdle. Afterward, he dismembered a portion of her torso with a knife, placing it near her body. Concealing the crime scene by flipping the mattress to hide bloodstains, he washed himself before departing the hotel. Later that day, he boarded a bus bound for Los Angeles. Because of strikingly similar methods of dismemberment employed in his crimes, Johansson came under investigation in relation to the Cleveland torso murderer case. This unidentified serial killer had claimed the lives of at least 12 individuals in Ohio between 1934 and 1938. Law enforcement also harbored suspicions regarding Johansson's potential involvement in a number of unsolved homicides in San Diego. Despite these suspicions, he was never formally charged in connection to any of these murders. Following McCarthy's murder, detectives launched an investigation into local bars, where they located a witness who had seen Johansson and McCarthy together and knew his alias. On July 9, 1940, as Johansson exited a meeting in Los Angeles, police apprehended him. Hotel staff positively identified him as the last person seen with McCarthy, leading to his confession to both Coffin's and McCarthy's murders. He then disclosed his true identity and the details of his first wife's murder. Charged with the 2 California murders, Johansson initially wished to plead guilty, but his public defender advised against it. Instead, he entered a plea of innocent, later changing it to not guilty by reason of insanity. Convinced of his insanity, he expressed a desire for confinement in an asylum, once stating to a judge, "I'll kill some other woman if you free me. I'll do it again, sure." In October of 1940, he was declared legally sane and subsequently convicted of the murders. The following day, he received a death sentence. Johansson remained indifferent to the verdict, remarking to the judge, "It doesn't make any difference." Johansson met his end on September 5, 1941, in the gas chamber at San Quentin State Prison. Prior to his execution, he expressed apathy towards his impending fate, telling reporters, I don't give a damn if I go to the gas house. Not much doubt I'm a menace. I've killed 3 women, and I'd probably do it again unless they got me out of the way. I expect the worst, and the sooner it comes, the better. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to join our community. We upload every Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m. For more content like this, be sure to check out our other videos on the channel. You can also follow us on our other social media platforms for uploads and updates. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.